recall.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, yeah.
All right. And we should be live already. Just double check that on the stream. Looks like
are indeed live.
it. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Yahtzee Plays Black Mesa with the Devs, in which Yahtzee plays Black Mesa with the Devs. Simple enough title, we thought. I'm joined by Jay, and I'm joined by two people who worked on Black Mesa. Do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us what your role was?
You go first,
Adam,
Mikey.
you go first.
Oh,
No,
I said you. All right.
Okay,
right.
and I'm going.
So, okay.
Okay. My name is Michael Cerujas. On Black Mesa, I wrote for maybe half or more of the HECU grunt dialogue, all the barks, all those radio scenes that you hear, and I also did the voiceover for them. I'm also associated here with Jay. We do dev heads on Second Wind, so I'm a bit of a regular now. Adam, how about you?
Yeah, off to a super smooth start already. I'm Adam. I was the project lead on Black Mesa. Still doing a bunch of dev stuff to keep the game up to date on the Mesa side. I'm also the owner of Crowbar Collective. I joined Black Mesa way back in 2006, so I worked on the game for a really long time, and just super excited to be here and chat about it. And I was telling these guys before we got on of like, want to have a nice unguarded talk about Mesa, talk about our successes, talk about things that we could have done better, and so if there's something you guys see that you didn't like or something you liked, like, let's chat about it. Let's see what's up.
Stuff we learned from.
I like an I like an informal stream. So let's kick off. We agreed we would start in questionable ethics rather than the start of the game, so we can get for want of a nice little vertical slice of the game, as it were. So it's certainly one of my favourite chapters. So it starts us off with a nice little lab setting, because Half-Life goes through a bunch of different tones, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we're
What do you like about questionable ethics?
Well, I guess I like the science lab decor, and there's a specific bit towards the end that we'll get to when we get to it that I liked from a writing and story building perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I like the science side of Half-Life. I like the feeling that we are actually a scientist.
Yeah, and this is where the game sort of loses its innocence, because you start out as a scientist, you're just doing your job, things go to shit, and you're always viewing the aliens as the bad guys. But then as we progress, like, we just walked by a bunch of cages that the Hound Eyes were in, and already the game's starting to reveal like what's actually going on here. Are we the good guys?
And then boom, right there,
boom.
you get the A grunt who's just standing there, naked and afraid and no weapon. And you go, wait a minute, maybe we shouldn't have been fucking around instead.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the original, I remember very clearly, if you stood right here, you would trigger the alien grunt's melee animation, and he'd actually smash the canister he was in.
Yeah.
And you'd have to fight him.
Yep.
He does something similar, right? He bashes his head. Oh, he just does it regularly. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you
gassed him.
Who's the master now?
That just happened to me in my playthrough. It spooked me. I didn't realize he came out of the glass there.
Amazing.
So,
hello, everyone in chat.
Hello, everyone in chat. So, as I said, I'm hoping with the questionable ethics and then the service tension, we'll have a nice little slice of all the different flavors Half-Life does, with the spooky labs and the soldier fights. But even then, there's a lot we're going to miss out on. There's something I found really interesting that I wonder if you guys knew. It kind of blew my mind when I heard it. You know the head crab zombie? Like the iconic Half-Life monster? Where do you think, in the original Half-Life, you guys might already know this, is the last encounter with a head crab zombie?
Oh.
The last.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm reaching back. Is it at some point in Zen?
No, there's none in Zen. You'd need head
Probably
crabs.
way earlier.
You'd need head crabs and scientists to have head crab zombies, and there ain't no scientists in Zen. Except that one. That's hard to find.
The dead HEV guys, I guess. But yeah, point taken.
Where are they?
The last one is in apprehension, before the halfway point of the game.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured it would be earlier than I expected, but not that early.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like after the weapon strip, you never see another one.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm like an enormous Half-Life fan, but I feel like for one, there's a lot I don't know. Two, there's always shit that you can learn about this franchise.
Yeah, it's very deep.
I know, it surprised me, but it really reflects how the tone of Half-Life really changes as you go through.
Yeah.
Or stole the Combine shader there for that effect where the guy gets nuked.
Do you feel the communication of, like, you know, you said this is probably the level where you get more of, you know, you're a scientist and then questioning your ethics.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How are you approaching that communication through gameplay? Is it through, like, the level design and the tasks that you're set out to do?
I think in this level specifically, it's just what the player discovers along the way and how much they're paying attention. I know I certainly, as a kid, didn't pick up on it in the original Half-Life. It was like, oh, aliens in a science lab. Like, I didn't really make the connection of what I think Valve was trying to get across. Chris Horn did a lot of the planning for this chapter, or pretty much all of it. And then anything I mentioned of like, oh, this level designer did this, like, keep in mind it's like a giant collaboration between the entire team, because like,
of course,
Jonathan Welsh worked on this, Anthony Stone, Daniel Junick, like everybody had a hand in all these levels, so it's like a true team effort. But you got this guy here, I love this guy, but a lot of the stuff we intentionally did not have in the actual dialogue. There might be a scientist that says something, but I think for the most part, we tried to have it discoverable by the player and kind of like in your face, but not explicit.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Makes it feel a lot more natural.
Who was it voicing the security guards, by the way? They do a pretty good impression.
Yeah. It's Kevin Sisk. He's actually in the chat right now.
Oh, really?
Oh, Kevin's here. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin. He's been in a ton of Half-Life projects. So if you play a mod or something, chances are he's been involved in that. And yeah, he did great. He did the G-Man as well, which is a fantastic and extremely difficult impersonation to do. So credit to him on there.
Well, of course, the original voice actor Mike Shapiro also did both the security guard and the G-Man.
Yep.
In fact, didn't he like collect an award for Half-Life as the G-Man at one point?
Oh, I'm gonna Google that.
Yeah, fellas in chat. Fact check. Speaking of chat, OctoBlueFever64 gives £5. Thank you so much. By the way, Makey, that's pounds. That's British pounds. I know you. Struggle with your English phrasing.
I've never lived in Europe for 3 years. I never would have guessed any of the currencies.
It says, "Hey Yahtzee, could you try Entropy 02?"
Oh,
that's a good one. Yeah.
Is that a mod?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a sequel to Entropy 01. You play as the Combine. I haven't played it yet. I pledged to play the co-op mod with a buddy because we were doing a Half-Life 2 playthrough at the time Entropy 02 came out. But I hear, critically, it was like super well received. It came out a couple years ago, I think.
Okay. I've fallen off on me Half-Life mods. I used to be really big into Half-Life 1 mods.
Me too.
I played
Me too.
They Hunger, USS Darkstar, all Neil Manka stuff.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
The Xeno Project. PC Gamer used to routinely put them on the cover discs back in the day, back when everyone bought print magazines.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let me ask you something.
Discs were a thing.
Did you? I loved They Hunger, Azure Sheep, Sweet Half. Like, there's a ton that I liked. I'm curious, did you ever play this one? I feel like most people who like Half-Life 1 mods did not play. Heart of Evil?
Oh, I think I did. That's the one that's based on Heart of Darkness, right? Set in Vietnam.
Yes, it's pretty twisted. It's got like an odd sense of humor, but the level of production was crazy to me. That was one of the ones I played as a kid, and I'm like, oh my god, like they did a total conversion to Vietnam, and there's like zombie gorillas and shit. It was wild.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I do remember playing it. I don't know much about it. I think I just got stuck in it at one point. Tended to be the case with a lot of Half-Life mods.
Well, that one was especially bad because that one had some really, really tough puzzles in it.
Yeah, I remember there was a puzzle.
Nathan Ruck, I think, made it.
Yeah, Azure Sheep, I remember that. I remember Sweet Half-Life. That was a weird one.
Yeah. It was... Let me ask you guys... I remember bringing up Sweet Half-Life to someone who hadn't played a lot of Half-Life 1 mods but liked Half-Life, and then they played it and they were like, Mikey, that was a very good, that felt really dated to me, like as far as like a Half-Life 1 mod's progression. Did you guys ever go back and play it recently? Did it feel dated to you?
I watched like a video essay on it not too long ago, but I haven't played it in a while. I remember it felt really surreal, and I was impressed by what they'd done with the original engine.
Yeah, some of those
like give HEV guys like shotguns and stuff. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Side note: Azura Sheep is on. It's a mod for Black Mesa as well.
Oh, really?
I don't know if any of the originals were involved. I need to look into that, and I haven't played it myself. I need to, and I think that's. Hold on, I'm calling myself out on how little I know about the community. I think Azura Sheep went into the HECU Collective. Chat, please correct me if I'm wrong.
I've been tracking that a little bit. I think our thumbnail for the show we did with you was one of their pictures, right?
Yes, yeah, and if you understand if you want to wait till it's done, but if you all haven't checked out Blue Shift yet, that is a fantastic mod for Black Mesa, and hats off to those guys for the work they've been putting into that.
Yeah,
huge help to us, and it was a joy to play through.
Who was it who did the Hazard Course mod?
Oh, I don't remember. The only thing I remember is that we needed to get an entity to them so that they could finish something with the holograms, and we never did. And it's like one of my biggest regrets because we could add this sweet little like plug and play mod for the Hazard Course.
Oh, I got turned around a bit.
You played the Hazard Course mod?
A while ago, yeah.
It's fun. I liked how they lampshaded the fact that they're training Freeman to use a gun for no particular reason.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I'm pretty sure I did voiceover in that.
Oh, yeah.
I was the guy at the like the shooting range, the guard there.
Yeah. He was like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Yeah. And he's criticizing him. I don't remember why. It might have been an improv line that never got used, but I remember saying, "You're jerking the trigger. You got to stop jerking the trigger." Something like that. Which,
this part is good. Looking at the game now, so there's a couple of ways you can tackle this. I believe, like Yahtzee's doing now, you can set off the mines yourself, which I think is going to release the A grunts.
Yeah.
Or the Marines can set off the mines. Or you can set it off and then do exactly what you're doing and use this chamber to murderize them. Yeah, which took me forever to realize the complexity of this space.
I took the exact same approach with the original, usually. Just set off the mines and then run up here and let them fight and mop up the survivors. That's the usual attitude.
Oh, there's a button to lock the door, isn't there? And set off that big...
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys!
Happen with the Combine effect.
Yeah, yes.
I like that you guys did that. That felt
Oh, they left the room.
Yeah, too late.
We did a similar thing.
They're like, fuck this.
Yeah, this looks dangerous. We should leave.
What's this big Tesla coil thing? Fuck
that. We did a similar thing with the boots on the assassins. We stole the portal tech with the landing boots. And it's like small nods that the community gets. It doesn't like disrupt the lore or anything too big. So I think tying those things together a little bit is cool. And
if anything, it enriches it, right? Who's to say those assassins didn't buy that tech from whoever put Shell? Was it? Aperture. I forget how you pronounce it.
Aperture.
Yep. Yeah, and that was our thought too of like the competition was selling things to your opposition.
Yeah. We have a couple donos with some questions. From Beneath 1111 gives 50 SEK. Yeah, so you'll go with currency. What's a SEK?
Swedish krona.
Swedish krona? Yeah.
Wow, you are good.
It says,
I've been doing this a while.
Was there anything you wanted to add or remove from the game but couldn't because it would change too much?
Oh, yes. Actually, a small thing I was just talking to the community about the other day in the Discord. I would like the shotgun pattern to be a little bit tighter and maybe the damage up a little bit, but like even small changes like that.
Poor guy got you.
Even small changes like that will like have a drastic effect on the overall challenge of the game. So we kind of left it a little nerfed. I think the MP5's like still the main gun that you go to in our game, and maybe if we buff the shotgun a little bit, it would improve that. When we get to the Zen levels, if there's time, and if we do get to the later first chapter, I think there's areas we could have cut down. But a lot of that, too, had we cut them when we needed to, it would have created a ton of work of now bridging those two sections.
Damn it.
So that was a that was a constant struggle we had of like, do we cut this? Do we leave it? Is it going to create more work than just finishing what's there? Stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%.
There were on my end, there were a bunch of scenes that I wrote and wanted to use in for the grunts. I remember one in particular that we actually like got through and recorded. I don't think that we used was the tree frog line. Adam, do you remember that one? One of the snipers. It's still like the community has access to it. If you look up some of the compilations, it's on. It's about a sniper saying, "Hey, we found Freeman, we think," and an officer responds, "Are you sure?" And he responds to that, "He looks like an orange ice pop." Like, I'm pretty sure. You know? And he says, like, "Okay, if you have the shot, take it." I don't think we ended up using that, but I remember seeing the community discovered it. Yeah. Then there were a bunch of other ones that maybe I'll remember later when we're in surface tension that I wrote, and I was like, "Come on, let's do it." And we had to keep it more minimal, right? Like we couldn't be too excessive. The game is so environmentally storytelling-y, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
speaking of which, wait, could you go back to those whiteboards? I have a question, Adam. How much effort did writing when you're safe? How much effort did it take to create those? How scientific are they? And I assume it was Ben Truman who wrote those, right?
Chris Horn, and I'm sure Ben had a ton of input. I think others created some of the art for them too, but these I'm almost certain are all Chris Horn. Beautiful. With drawing and putting them onto there. And then he made sure that they link into all the scientist lore that's going on all the way into the Zen polytunnels, which is the like science cave that we built into Zen.
Wow.
So there's a through line in the information. They talk about the same things. They're consistent with each other, so to speak.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's like gaps or whatever, but you can definitely see things in questionable ethics that are referenced forward, like the names of all the scientists in the offices, like their desk plates and lockers. You'll find those same names in Zen as dead HEVs.
Oh, damn it. I thought this was a healing pool.
You could,
it's crazy.
You know that you could have gassed them, right? If you wanted, I guess you needed to charge.
Yeah, that always takes ages, though.
Yeah.
And
you can't get in, I don't think.
So, serious question. Do you guys ever use snarks playing Half-Life?
Not really, man. They're too unpredictable.
I don't use them. I do use the hive hand for taking out head crabs. I think it's super underutilized. It's still a little underpowered, but yeah, I use that, not the snarks.
There's like one bit in all of Half-Life where I use snarks. It's when you're up in the vents in surface tension.
Yeah.
The soldiers shoot at the vents. And if you back up fast enough, you don't fall into the room. And you can just drop snarks into the room and laugh.
Yep. I was just watching a streamer do that the other day.
I think one of the reasons why is like it's not like they're not useful. It's just it asks for your gamer patience to use them, because you throw them into a room and you could hang back and you could just wait, but you kind of want to keep playing, right? You kind of want to be aggressive. It's Half-Life, right? You move very quickly. There's a lot of good close range weapons. It's more satisfying to not use them, I guess, is the problem.
That's true. And Jay, did you have
satisfying the crossbow?
Yeah, we got some more donos. We got True Mando with $2 and says, "What opportunities did Black Mesa open for all of you?"
Oh,
Mike, you want to lead
Adam. Yeah, sure. Well, let's see. I was involved with the Black Mesa team, I guess, like in the late to middle part of the development. So like 2016, 2017. I can't remember exactly. And I was already working for New World Interactive. So I was working on Insurgency. But so I was already like, I had already begun my start into game development. So it wasn't like my first project, right? I guess it was after my first project, which was officially probably Insurgency. But it was really close. Like they both happened at a very similar time, and it was an important validation to me that said, like, hold on, like you can make this career. Like this is, I was just contracting at the time, like broadly speaking in game dev, but it was validation that I could make this serious and real. Black Mesa contributed to me being financially stable enough to like find my own place and stuff, because this was like roughly post-college, and it gave me a lot of opportunities as far as like when I talk to people about narrative design work that I've done, and I talk about writing I've done. I might say something like, I wrote thousands of lines for Insurgency and Insurgency Sandstorm and Day of Infamy, and they go, okay, cool. And I say, I also wrote for Black Mesa, and their eyes light up. And they go, whoa, you worked on Black Mesa? That's awesome. And then a lot of doors open from that because it's, the quality game that it is. So nothing like super firm and specific, but yeah, go ahead.
So Black Mesa was announced how long ago? Like stupidly long ago?
They started in 2004-ish, and then it kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, I guess my question would be, at the time you came in, Adam, what state was it at? And was there anyone left by the time it came out that was in the original project?
Oh yeah, and I'll answer the dono question too. But first, I went on, like I said earlier, in 2006, and there was actually a lot done level-wise. Like you could actually play a fair bit of the game, but it was all very rough, as you'd expect. And it took us till 2012 until we had something that was publicly releasable, and that was without the Zen levels. And as far as the team goes, like, there was a number of core people that stayed on all the way till the end. And you had people that would leave and then they'd come back. Like, we were all doing it as basically a second job. So we totally understood that people had other things to do. They had to pay the bills and all that. So, and then going back to, like, what Black Mesa did for me, it's, like, obviously life-changing. And how do I phrase it? It started out as, this is going to be, my portfolio piece to get me into the industry. And it did. Like, I used Black Mesa stuff in my portfolio to get a job in the games industry. But then it after I got laid off, it became my career. And it was much more, I don't know if the term's self-serving, but, like, all these things that we learned on, like, how to communicate as a team and how to give feedback and, like, ways to work as a remote studio, like, fed into us actually creating a studio with full-time employees and, health benefits and all that fun stuff. And it's just a wild ride that this fun project that we happen to do in our spare time opened up for us.
Did you have an idea that you were laying that foundation, or was it just this was a fun kind of, like, effectively second job project that you were going to work on to get into the industry? Did you know you were laying that foundation, or was it?
It started really as a fun passion project, and I think the more and more we got into it, and the more recognition we got, we knew we were doing something special, and that's something that people really wanted. And one of the advice we got early was, like, make sure you finish it. Like, if you put all this effort into it and it kind of just goes vaporware, like, that's not going to help you at all, and you'll have this huge thing that really didn't come to fruition. And we really took that to heart and, like, just kept working, and it took forever, but, like, I think you can see the fruits of that and how it came out 100%. And the things it did for us.
On the topic of that, we got another dono from Sovereign with €5 and says, one of my favorite things about Black Mesa is how you guys made the Black Mesa research facility feel like a real place that could actually exist and function. So great job on that. And my question is, how did you go about that? How did you go about breathing life into something that is very, I guess, sterile? Like, a research facility can be very sterile.
Yeah, that's another huge team effort with Ben and Mikey writing stuff that makes the NPCs feel grounded. The sound team, like Joel and Anthony. I was playing, what map was it? Blast Pit, I believe. And I was alone in a hallway, and I just hear this wrench or something clang off into the distance. And, like, little things like that just make it feel like there's something going on just outside your vision.
Yeah.
And we really took inspiration from the original, where there's, like, a closet cracked and you can see into there, and you can't go in there, but you can see, like, a red light through the cracked closet door. And just that little bit, we were like, all right, we're doing this everywhere. Like, anywhere we could add a little extension that you couldn't quite get to, we tried to put into the game to make the world feel like it was whole and you were just, like, weaving your way through it.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that.
Level to level.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I think it was a passage in Masters of Doom or John Romero's book, Life in First Person. I forget the name, but it talks about, like, one of the big deals when they unlocked the power of Doom and, like, going beyond Wolfenstein 3D. I think they talk specifically about how it was a breakthrough in level design for first-person games to be able to look outside of a window at a place you couldn't go to, or at a place that you went to later. And it's interesting how reliable that principle is as far as like building out a space that feels real.
Absolutely.
So this is my favorite bit of questionable ethics I was talking about.
Yeah.
This one's great.
Yeah, just the way the whole bringing the scientists to the lobby is reframed as this little ambush. Yeah.
Yeah, and this area is huge. I replayed Half-Life on stream recently, and I couldn't believe how small this lobby is in the original. Like, and I don't think it's a, necessarily Black Mesa has supplanted my memory, though it has. But like, you think back to the original Half-Life, and you think of these spaces as being much bigger, and then you go back and play the original, and you're like, oh, this is actually pretty small. Way different than I remember.
Like being a little kid.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bugger. See, the challenge of the remaster is not just necessary to recreate the game, is to recreate the way we felt when we first played the game.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it.
Yep.
Like Sonic Mania would be a good example of that as well.
I need to check that out. I'm a huge Sonic 2 fan. I was rereading the dev forums to prepare for this, and Johans, one of our artists, was like, when this first came online, they're like, holy shit, my adrenaline was pumping. Like, I haven't played this in over a year since it was in Blockout. Like, I think it just kind of like came together, and we did a bunch of passes with like Definitive Edition and stuff to like really spice this up and help direct the player, but this came together really well.
Oh, we got another
Intel?
SVS Guru. SVS Guru gives €5 on RIP. And it says Black Mesa was a great remake, though I have one small criticism. The Interloper part was too long.
Yeah, I agree. We can move on now.
You agree?
Yeah, no, that's something we talked a lot about in development, and it like I referenced earlier with the Zen levels, cutting them down. Interloper was a huge, like, we sort of identified that, oh, maybe this is too long, but it was definitely one of those scenarios where if we pulled the levels together, now we have a ton of work to make that go together. And we had this goal that we didn't quite get to, of like really showing the A grunts getting built and manufactured. And you could see all the systems, and like we wouldn't have had any of, it at the time. We're like, oh, we're not going to be able to do this if we don't have this big long section, and then we weren't really able to pull it off anyway. So it's just one of the costs of game development, and like sort of building the airplane as you land it, because you just don't know how it's all going to turn out.
Bollocks.
I think the point where I felt fatigue in Interloper was I liked a lot of it, but the specific point was just when you get there's a container containing an A grunt, and it bounces up through a blue force field, and you see that and you think, oh, okay, I have to take out the blue force field by shooting a thing somewhere, and you follow the line, like the electronic organic cord that goes, and you see there's 3 of them, and I looked at that and I went, okay, I don't know if I'm up for like 3 of these. But it was like little moments like that where I thought like there could be a little bit cut. However, on the other hand, going through each of those 3 fights was like fun and interesting. I really liked about Interloper how you had you could just fucking have fun with the Tau cannon and the gluon gun in so much of it, and not worry too much about health, and like the interesting the way that the controller fights are made more interesting. Like all of those were awesome opportunities that Interloper offered.
Yep, that is. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because that was the other hard part about cutting things. Was we had a lot of these sections that were fun in isolation on their own, and we would play test them out, be like, this is great, and then you play them in sequence with all the other things we got going on, and now it's starting to drag out. So like, it's really hard to cut those things that you like. But when you have a released game, people don't know what you cut, and Kevin actually mentioned it in the chat. We cut stuff out of Interloper. It's on the Zen Museum if you want to check it out on the workshop. But Interloper used to be even longer than it was. So like, and I think had we had that stuff in, it would have been another criticism. So like, it was the right call to cut that stuff. We just need to be more deliberate in what we cut.
All right, got through with a bit of save scum in there. I think specifically what I like about this scene from a storytelling perspective is how when you've killed the shit out of all the soldiers, the scientists come out and they're actually a little bit scared of you.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell did you do, Freeman? I think that's...
Was that in the original?
Frame me with this again.
No, in the original, he just runs over and
yeah. In the original, there's no like ambush. It's just the scientist runs up to the thing. But yeah, we were talking about before we started how what sort of things you felt like you needed to do to elaborate on the story to humanize certain characters, especially the HECU grunts.
Yeah.
That's certainly the scene that sticks out of my mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in Surface Tension coming up, and there's some of it too in like We Got Hostiles, where there are the bad ones too that are like complaining about they only got to kill dumbass scientists and they weren't there for that. And then we kind of flip it in Surface Tension and humanize them a bit more.
The direction, I think, it's a little ambiguous in the original Half-Life. The direction of the scene, I killed 12 dumbass scientists and not one of them fought back. This sucks. That's the line, right? Yeah. The direction in the original sounds like he's just a bit of a psychopath, and he isn't enjoying that he's not being challenged. In the take that we did, our effort was to try to humanize them. So it's like, I just killed 12 people, and they didn't fight back. This is awful. I don't like this. And to me, it's an awesome scene because you don't just get the opinion of one person. You get the other Marine right next to him who just goes, yup, and then walks out. He's just like, this sucks. I hate it. I don't like it any better than you do, but it's our job. And he just expresses that in one word. And then when the first Marine goes to leave, he stops. He looks at the scientist again, just thinking about how he's never going to forget this and it's going to affect him for the rest of his life. And then the yup guy just says, come on, we got to go. And then they leave. The choreography, I think, that the team set up for those scenes, even just the questionable ethics, is awesome. Like when you walk in and the guy says, I can't believe what you did just now, and he surveys the room, it all works so well. And it helped to humanize the HECU for sure, scenes like that. And you'll hear a bunch of them upcoming here in Surface Tension.
Were you concerned that maybe the dehumanization of the Marines in the original Half-Life was like a conscious artistic choice by the devs?
I actually asked Mark Laidlaw myself at Steam Days in 2014. I didn't directly ask that, but I asked him. I wanted to kind of tease out like, what was your motivation here? So I basically asked him like, hey, so I think I was working on Black Mesa at the time, or at least I was talking to the team. Like I think I was talking to you guys in 2014. I can't remember, but anyway, I was there, and I said like, oh, so I thought it was interesting how you guys did the HECU and Half-Life, and Opposing Force kind of grew on it with making the Marines and stuff. What was your effort as far as what branch were you trying to depict? Like what kind of unit was it? What was the culture there? And if I remember right, Mark just kind of blinked and said, well, we kind of just wanted like a bad guy faction to fight. So I think I overthought it a bit, and I think I think it works for Black Mesa and what Black Mesa was trying to do. But I think in Half-Life 1, not trying to say like it was more shallow, but just like their purpose was more purely antagonistic.
Yeah, to be bad guys, which is fair.
Yeah.
I think reflecting... go ahead, Jay.
No, it's all right. We've got a donation, so you've finished your point, and then we'll go to the donation.
That's something I reflect on, because when we started this, like Call of Duty was blowing up, like everything was hardcore modern military, and we took a lot of influence from that. And I think now that we're a little more matured as game developers, we probably should have gone more like the boomer shooter route and made things a bit more of a cartoon character, so that it was less like, oh, I'm murdering people, and more I'm fighting bad guys. But that's like a complete like change, and it's just sort of me musing on it, not necessarily like a criticism of what we did.
It's interesting you say that, because I kind of like the humanizing direction that we took with it. I was like, obviously, like you remember, I was that voice on the team. I had been working on military shooters. I felt like, we were talking about this before the stream, I was telling Ben like more than once, and the team more than once, because keep in mind, I came onto the Black Mesa team pretty late, right? Like you came on, what, 2008, did you say? 2006?
06, yeah.
And I came on in like, it was either 2014 to 2016. I can't remember, somewhere around there. And I was saying, like, guys, look at all the extra dialogue you put into the scientists. Look at it you did for the guards. Yeah. Why not do the same for the HECU? It doesn't have to be in your face. It could still be Half-Life in that it's like very background and minor. There's no cutscenes, but we're not going to be in your face. It'll feel tasteful in that way. But they needed something. And to me, the sense the direction that made the most sense to push them in was one that was like a little more humanizing, at least in some pieces. But I guess what you're saying is true. You could have done the same for them in more of a boomer shooter sense. I just don't think it would have worked as well, at least.
Yep. Different, not necessarily better.
Yeah. And this is a part of what the culture on the Black Mesa team was like. Adam, you can speak to it more than me, but like there was a lot of push and pull and back and forth on everything. It was super collaborative.
Oh, grenade coming in. I love the HECU.
Look at those Gibbs, dude.
So that really weird experience. Mikey, do you remember when you had that thing where your computer was like typing out stuff you'd said?
Yeah, I do.
I just had that.
Yeah. Do you have a macro on the keyboard?
No, I don't think so. Maybe there's a macro and I don't know about it. But anyway, it's stopped now, so we're all safe.
We're haunted or we're hacked.
Yeah,
haunted or hacked? Shit.
Both. Hacked by a haunt.
Yeah.
We got a £1, or not £1, £5 dono from Piefish and said, did Valve provide any feedback for Black Mesa or did they stay hands off? Also, did the announcement of Alex impact the 1.0 release at all?
Hey, Piefish, good seeing you. Alex did not. It was actually really perfect timing, like super serendipitous that our game just happened to be coming out right before this really big Valve launch, and like it bumped our numbers. I'm sure, like that was fantastic. Valve was very hands off, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I kind of always looked at it as like them sort of like trusting us, and this is all me just theorizing. Nobody's ever told me this or anything. We did send them an early beta before the 2012 mod release, and I sort of think that was them like evaluating the project and seeing if they wanted to chat more businessy with us in the future. And the beta was not ready. Like, I think they were just like, cool, you guys are doing good work. Like, we're moving on. Yeah, but then we went back through, and I saw Carlos in the chat earlier. He's the former project lead for Black Mesa, and he initiated what we called the Fun Quest for a lot of the earlier levels and the Earthbound levels, and we tried to be more Valvean in our approach and like have mechanics that we introduced to the character and then carried through the game, like the flares in Unforeseen Consequences. You don't have a gun or a crowbar at the top of the elevator. You have to use the guard, which teaches you how to use the NPCs in the game. And then your only defense is throwing flares at zombies, which is much more interactive than either just running through or shooting them with a pistol. So we did a couple of things to try and elevate the game. But yeah, to answer the question shortly, Valve really didn't, other than some technical help and Steam help, we didn't really work with them.
It's beautiful. They trust it. It just shows the amount of trust they had in your process and your interpretation, because like there are changes, there are slight artistic changes, and to see that level of trust from such a kind of protective company just goes to show how much they.
Well, you say protective, but they let Hunt Down the Freeman go out.
Yeah. Yep. They don't let a number of projects go through, which I was kind of surprised with, ours included. Of like, you're gonna trust this team with your baby, like this thing that you created and that is so well regarded. It's just crazy. Credit to them for trusting us and letting communities do these types and opening the tools. Like, we wouldn't have been able to do this had we not had the SDK and been able to learn all the level design tools. Like, how many game developers are out there now that cut their teeth on this tool set that Valve released for free with the game?
Yeah, you were talking about how involved they were. I worked on I got my career start, essentially, not just with Black Mesa, but with Insurgency, which was originally a Half-Life 2 mod. And they were, as far as like engine support and stuff, generally speaking, they were a bit more hands-off. Sometimes it was difficult for us. It was like, shit, we really need to get a hold of someone.
Yeah.
But I think it's the way they do their developer relations is just kind of unconventional, I guess.
Yeah.
With especially what you're saying, which is just letting people you might not expect release stuff under their IP. But anyway, go ahead, Jake. What were you going to say?
It was just like with the interactions with Valve, was there anything you guys wanted to do, and or like told Valve you wanted to do, and they said no, that's like too far, or were you guys quite reserved in like the changes you wanted to make, so that never really came up?
Really, the only thing I think they asked us to do was change the game from Black Mesa source to Black Mesa because they didn't want the engine association. Everything else they were totally cool with, and we just kind of went through. Yeah, it's great.
And that's a good choice anyway, right? Like the game is artistic and beautiful and awesome enough to warrant just being Black Mesa. It's not just like Half-Life Source, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
it transcended.
Is anyone working on Opposing Force, Black Mesa, I wonder?
Not on our engine. I know there is source mods for Opposing Force. Because we have not released our source code, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Like, people can't put in the newer weapons and the newer AIs without much struggle. So, like, Opposing Force is kind of difficult.
Yeah, I suppose it'd be awkward. Because, as you say, it's all new weapons. This was a really elaborate expansion pack back in the day. It's like a whole other game.
Yeah. They did a lot with that one.
Yeah, and it's difficult with Half-Life canon, I suppose, because, of course, Opposing Force ends with Black Mesa being nuked. I don't think that's still the case in Half-Life 2's backstory.
Sure.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know, but you're right. They nuked it, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, what did... Oh, right, yeah. Adrian turns it off, G-Man turns it back on, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Okay.
Yeah.
Well-dressed bastard.
Another dono. You finish your thought. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, Adam, I thought there was like an HECU-inspired mod or something for Black Mesa, but I couldn't really remember. That's all I was going to say.
I don't think so.
We have from Kamja Ninja with $5. Says, here's a thought. Could you make a game about fighting American soldiers to stop them killing civilians today without it being a major controversy?
Yeah, that's
a
great question. Go ahead, Mickey.
I think it depends on the setting and your take on it and your messaging and your themes, right? Like it's kind of a broad topic, but generally speaking, I don't think it's controversial to like stop soldiers from doing something wrong. It just depends on how you do it. Like the devil's in the details there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a fairly common theme. You probably wouldn't be able to get support from the American military in making it, because they give support to like Hollywood movies, but they put like a ton of stipulations in the contract.
Yeah,
like, you can't depict the U.S. Army as anything but the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
Yeah, what is some example? Black Hawk Down, I think, had a bunch of U.S. military backing, right?
Yep. Because they were going to use Hueys, which would have obviously killed the title. And then they got
use Hueys, huh?
Yeah, I think at the last moment they got approval from the U.S. to tell the story, and they were able to use official Black Hawks. I believe the Rangers and Delta were involved in that. It's one of my favorite movies. That's why I'm going off on this tangent.
Great movie.
And so just so everyone knows too, the studios have to pay for all the military expenditures. So jet fuel and all that stuff is paid for by the studios. So your tax dollars aren't going to that.
And I imagine the Navy paid, or at least was involved with, Top Gun Maverick, because it makes the Navy and flying look awesome.
Yeah, boy, cool. Does it.
I know. Marvel Avengers, the first Avengers movie, famously was gonna get military funding, but then they said they rescinded it. And then if you watch that movie and how much like Nick Fury basically says, no, I'm gonna ignore all of the government's rules and do my own thing, you can probably see why they decided to take the funding.
Isn't there also like
Winter Soldier was coming?
Yeah, is that the one where they get invaded and they're defending, I forget the name of the city, or am I thinking of a different one?
New York, yeah. New York's being invaded, and the military's decision to stop this is to nuke New York.
Yeah. Common theme in these things, apparently.
Yeah.
Government's always trying to nuke things.
Get rid of it all. It solves the problem. As Ripley says in Aliens, it's the only way to be sure.
Yeah, yep.
I that trope, like, and this is part of, I guess, a little bit of what I tried to bring to this project, was like, I don't like when the military is just evil and the bad guys a lot of the time. It feels too simple. So what we kind of liked here, which I guess you'll see when you come to some of the radio scenes, was it's not so much that it's like moral ambiguity. What they're doing is bad. It's more like moral confliction with the way they talk about it in some of the scenes, and also triggering the player's sense of empathy and sympathy for the HECU with scenes like, you know, the bleed out over the radio and like, these are people and they are dying, like they were ordered to come here. So that to me is, you know, was a good way to take it, and I like that better in a lot of media. And when I watched the Avengers, I was like, where the fuck is the military? Why is it just these 5 to 8 yahoos running around zapping people? Totally unregulated. What's that?
Hawkeye arrows.
Hawkeye. Well, I do like Hawkeye because he's gritty and real, I guess. So, which you probably expect from my taste that I'm displaying right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how people still make content without their bad guys being motivated by anything. Like generic bad guys, generic. Like when they're motivated in film or whatever, it's so much better to watch.
You know, when it comes to depicting like authorities as like bad or evil, or like entire organizations and such, I remember a line from The Thick of It, which is a British sitcom that I'm very fond of, where a character who's like a member of a government department that's being investigated for serious misdeeds is being interviewed, and they say something like, I don't think anyone there is a bad person. I think most of them are just trying to get through the day without fucking up. And that's a line I keep to heart when I'm writing my own books about the government being weird.
Yeah, great segue. If you guys have not read some of Yahtzee's books, give them a go. Huge fan of Mogworld. I think I've also read We'll Save the Universe for Food.
Oh, that.
Differently Morphous and Jam, and thoroughly enjoyed them. So hats off. That was
Thank you
fun
very
trip.
much. Thank you for the surprise plug.
It's been years. I think I read half of Mogworld. I can't remember, and I remember enjoying that. I remember enjoying the depth of the world that you created. That moment of, I think it was in the beginning of him jumping off a cliff or something and being like, "This is it. I'm going to end it."
Yep.
And then getting sent right back in. I can't remember. It was years ago, but I liked how you characterized that guy and the organizations or groups of people within it.
Yeah, that was my first book. I still cringe a little looking back at some of my prose.
Everybody cringes at their past work.
Yeah, I'm cringing right now watching this game. Like,
are you really?
No.
What do you wait? Oh, you're not? Okay, because I was going to ask, what makes you cringe? Playing through
everything, like the way the rocks sit into the sand, like it's just when you make something and you work on something for so long, like all you can see is the mistakes.
I was going through Half-Life 2 with the developer commentary they just added in the recent update, and they keep talking about how they struggled. They always felt their Source engine struggled with outdoor environments, like especially large outdoor environments.
Yeah, and then we just leaned way into that.
Yeah.
Let's get game Debbie. Why do we think that is?
The outdoor stuff?
Yeah, what sets the outdoor stuff apart? Are we thinking render distance? No, we're not inside corridors. Maybe the foliage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just way easier to do like a blocky science facility versus nature. And like on the left here, I'm pointing, like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. On the left here, you can see the rocks where they seam into the sand. And we did a little bit of blending to get those colors to match, but you still have that hard edge where they meet. And that's extremely difficult to solve in games. Nowadays, it's a little better because there's technology that will like merge those things. I see a floating rock now that I'm watching it. Like, it's everywhere.
My personal game that I'm working on at the moment has a lot of caves and like underground areas, and the technology in Unreal 5 to do blending between assets is kind of staggering how good it is.
You played Dear Esther, right?
No, I haven't played Dear Esther. No.
Highly recommend. Fantastic short game. People use walking simulators as derogatory. Like, I don't. It's just a great experience. And if you want cave reference, I can't remember the name of the guy that made that. I'm pretty sure they're at Valve right now. And I stole a ton of their VMT settings to do stuff in Zen. Really like their project.
Yeah, I'm going to get that added to my wish list now.
If I may interrupt, Adam, maybe you could talk a little bit about your background of like specific things that you did on Black Mesa over the years, how your role changed and grew, and then also maybe a little bit about like your history in game dev.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great. I applied as an artist, and I was going to college with Chuck, Carlos, and Ben at the time, Andy Boatsma too, a couple other people. And Chuck and Carlos, I believe, were already on, or at least Chuck. And I started taking an art test. Oh, look at this scene, by the way. I love this.
I love this. Yeah.
The framing of the Black Mesa logo with the Mesa in the distance, and then the jets going by, and this is...
And Joel's music cranking, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'll finish my thought, and then we got to go back to this scene, too, because the way we built this is magical.
I asked the question at the wrong time. Sorry.
No, it's all good. He'll be here for a little bit. But yeah, they pretty much just dragged me on the project. I didn't even finish my art test. They're like, he's good. Just bring him in. That's why you make friends, and you don't be a jerk to people. Like, it's really important to have connections. Like, you don't got to put up with people's shit, but at the same time, like, be diplomatic. Don't burn bridges. It's massively important in the game industry. I was an artist for a while. Eventually became the art lead, which just because I was good at making to-do lists. Like, I was like, we need these assets. We need to take these CS props and convert them into our own props. And then eventually I evolved out of that into doing more like project management stuff, project lead stuff, helping oversee the feedback that we were generating for all these levels that we're working on. And then that sort of just fell me into, once we realized we were going to go retail, we decided to do that. Then that put me into the business side of it as well, which is not my forte. It's sort of like I reluctantly do that stuff, but I have a lot of help with that these days, and I really appreciate it. So since 2006, it has been a crazy journey, and just so many mistakes, so many lessons learned, and like that's how you grow. That's you have to do those things.
What a roller coaster, man.
Yeah, fail fast, fail
off. I'll say this real quick, Adam. Perhaps it should be that way. The artist learning business to deliver the art instead of just being about the business. But point taken, what you're saying,
Yeah, and it does help where I can say this business decision is a bad one because it's going to impact the art in a negative way. Like, I have experience in those fields. But yeah, it's difficult to balance those two. Yahtzee, you're on 3 health. I hope.
No, yeah. We get to enjoy.
Not anymore.
Yes,
enjoy this bit again.
It worked out perfectly. So jumping over to this though, I think Carlos is in the chat, and I know a ton of other people worked on this too. But like, this is a cascading skybox that we built. So there, in the source engine, there's a whole other smaller realm that is the 3D skybox that gives you that parallax when you're looking at stuff. And it's smaller so that it doesn't take as many resources because it is farther away from you. And Carlos and I believe Chris Horn developed this system where very close there's these high detailed meshes, and then it gets lower in detail as it goes away within the skybox. And it was like this insane balancing act that they had to do to get this to look proper. It looks like it's all the same resolution scale, but it dramatically fades as it goes back into the background. And I think I was reviewing the dev forums, and somebody said, this map is what puts us on the map. And I was like, yep, that's pretty much it.
It looks awesome, dude.
Yeah, we've used this for screenshots for decades now. So like, this is key to our success.
There's a moment that's going to come up that you guys probably remember that you let's say you validate the depth of that image of that view when you have the jets come in and blow up the dam. That was just such an awesome moment. Like,
and really there's a sound delay that a lot of the team pushed for. So you see it happen, and then it goes boom. I think you see the shockwave come in too.
Oh yeah.
It communicates the depth so much, right? It's so cool. It's tiny details like that it's just really sell so much.
Props to sound, man.
Super cool.
Yep. The antennas on the mesas out there. Those help establish scale too, because we roughly know how big a radio antenna is. We put those out there so that you can get a sense for that stuff. It's huge team effort, and something we're really proud of. Matt Young did a bunch of passes on these for the later versions too. Like, all these rocks weren't here initially. They were just flat displacements, they're called in the source engine, flat terrain, and then we went in and put in these rocks. We added volumetric fog that we used in the Zen levels, so that that blue that you see, I believe it fades as it goes up, and it gives you that distance to help push things back to the atmosphere.
Yeah. How does
Yahtzee, just so you know, that rope there is a barnacle. It's a creature in Half-Life that grabs you and tries to pull you up. Just wanted to let you know in case you weren't aware.
Oh, well, I wasn't about to Tarzan my way across.
Another thing that's an opposing force that would make it difficult.
Yeah, that's true. With the it looked real janky, but it worked, and it was pretty impressive tech. Sorry, Jay, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say with the volumetric fog, how good is Source Engine at dealing with those post-processing effects and stuff like that? Because
by default it doesn't. There's just the generic 2D fog that you can leverage. There is, I think, fog volumes, but I don't think they perform very well. Or there was something that we rarely use them, if at all. And then Chetan, our lead programmer, he made volumetric fog that works on what's called the G buffer. So it's deferred rendering, so the entire screen gets rendered as an image, and then the game sees, all right, what is in front of what, using what's called a depth buffer. And then that's how it puts the fog in, because it's doing it per frame versus trying to render an actual real-world fog simulation. Yeah. So we use that for CSM as well. Looks at the frame. All right, where are the shadows in this one frame? I don't care about shadows anywhere else. Where are they right now? So that it saves on a ton of resources.
Yes.
And he wedged that tech into the source engine, and it's why we require dedicated video cards, because of the janky way we did things. And I think he would approve of me calling it janky. Like, everything, the source engine's kind of duct taped together to begin with, and then we sort of brought our own rolls of duct tape and just really laid it on.
Every engine is, man. Like, the game dev is just jank duct tape town. Like, I've never seen a game's back end that isn't just like barely holding itself together.
Yep. Comments of like, what the fuck does this do?
Yep. 100%.
I think I remember one of the devs, Joe Raddick, calling it a Franken engine, or saying that, that the team would call it a Franken engine. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Amazing. Yeah, we've got a few donos to catch up on. We've got one from Sovereign, which when we were talking about the nuke, it's €5 and says, according to Laidlaw, the nuking of Black Mesa was actually Valve's idea, not Gearbox's. So they'd had a canon excuse to not to have to go back there for Half-Life 2.
Interesting. So, like, as a writer, I don't want to explore that. Blow it up. Like, I don't want to have to deal with it in any of the sequels. God. Remove it from the earth.
Yeah. We have a few more. Oh, carry on, Yachts.
I mean, Arthur Conan Doyle killed off Sherlock Holmes for that reason.
Yeah.
It's kind of mad, and he brought him back.
Maybe he should have nuked him. Maybe he should have nuked Sherlock Holmes.
Moriarty says, parry this.
Yes, let's get that as a quote for the channel. Maybe you should have nuked Sherlock Holmes. Yahtzee.
It's the only way, to be sure.
Commander Harrington with $5 and says, I want to say thanks to you, Mikey, for helping bring the HECU to life and giving them more depth. You've inspired my own work, and I am grateful.
That's awesome.
Thank you, man. That's really nice of you. This was a big deal for me. I can't wait to hear some of the lines, and I'll talk more about why it was a big deal and what I tried to do. But I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
100%.
If we don't already, we should have closed captions on too. That will probably help.
Oh yeah. Let's put
I thought we did.
We got audio captions on. I can put dialogue captions on.
Yeah, that'll be useful.
Yeah, dialogue only. I can put on.
Cool.
I can put on closed captions.
Dialogue only. I think we'll do more than enough, because there's a ton that we put in. The gunshot number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got some more. We got B Smash with $5 and says, books, movies, and games aren't completed; they're abandoned.
Yes.
Yeah. Art is never finished.
Agree.
All right.
It's just one of those things.
Well, just been given a rocket launcher. I'm sure.
Nothing bad will happen.
There's no reason for that.
Yeah, I think it's helicopter time. Oh, wait. This reminds me of one of the scenes that I wrote that never got used. I had a whole fucking thing planned out here. it was going to be this Apache pilot that was tracking you, kept calling you out and saying like, "Oh, I've got eyes on Freeman. He's so and so." I think I even wrote a scene at the dam, right? But at this scene in particular, there's going to be a bit of a disagreement because I don't think the Marines, the HECU Marines, I don't think the Marine Corps has an Apache. So they had an Apache on loan from the Army was the idea here. And the Army pilot was frustrated with the way the Marines were running the operation. So in this scene, he was supposed to be disobeying orders a little bit, or at least kind of keying the radio off and like being ambiguous about whether or not he had to engage Gordon here. Like he was being uncharacteristically, dangerously aggressive and trying to cover his ass for it a bit. That was basically the scene. Because when I played this game as a player, I thought to myself, this Apache one-on-one-ing Gordon right here is like super dangerous. The only thing that would make a person do that or allow them to do that is if like they didn't have like they were disobeying orders, or again like willingly engaging in some sort of like fog of war. Say like, oh, I had to shoot him. He shot the rocket at me first. That was the whole point of this scene. What I wanted to do, which would come through on the radio on Gordon's suit, basically.
Yeah,
But it never got happen. I forget why. I think Ben must have been like, I think that's a bit too much, or we don't have time, or it was some other reason. I really don't know.
Yachts, I think you can, if the rocket is out and not detonated, you can hit R and it will reload and just abandon that missile that's out. I think. Play tip for chat.
That's useful.
But with the helicopter, I never, as a kid, realized you could fight it at the dam. That was always surprising to me when I learned about it. And I like that we sort of mimic this too in Gonark, where the repeat attacker, like this nemesis that we're trying to develop. The helicopter's a great little nemesis.
Yeah.
It's great, yeah. There is something to be said for like the silent monster in the sky. So that is one thing that you do maintain here without having too much dialogue. So I will say that for sure.
Mm-hmm. But we were talking about motivated antagonists earlier. So like that brings in a little bit of that why is this helicopter so...
Exactly, yeah. And I had a lot of consultation and help with this. Like I talked to Marines, right? And I talked to people who knew the lingo and knew the radio comms. I tried to target it for early 2000s protocols and stuff. There's certain things that aren't there though, like they don't say interrogative before they ask questions, which I think they would have done at the time. But for the most part, like authenticity was pretty high, and I think this is one of the scenes where that would have come out a little bit. And it was supposed to be, it was again, the scene never got used, so whatever, but it was a delicate scene to be writing because they didn't want the Apache pilot to just be like, fuck you, Gordon, I'm coming for you. Like, it had to be more like his officer saying, hey, if Gordon's there by yourself, do not engage, do not fight him, and then him going, sorry, I can't hear you, or, oh, you're breaking up, or he fired a rocket at me, even though the player's like, I didn't fire a rocket at him, oh god, and then like, I wanted to have a little bit of that in the scene.
Yeah. Accidental enemies.
More like covering your ass and preparing a narrative when you get chewed out for doing something dangerous. But it was supposed to have like a little bit of a background to it. Oh, here's the scene. Could you look to the right, Yahtzee?
Planes.
I just love this. Listen.
Whoa.
He got a little too into it.
You got him.
Guess that was a bad place to stand for that.
We get to see it again.
We've got a couple more donos. We got 20 Canadian dollars from, I'm going to pronounce this in a British way. Sorry, Matthew Mazza. It says, having you guys sit down with the devs and play one of their games, it's a great format. I'd be equally interested in watching you do this with a bad game. For example, Yahtzee plays Kane and Lynch 2 with the devs would be super interesting.
Fucking Kane and Lynch 2. I don't know if I agree that's a bad game, man. That game there were parts that I didn't like. That's for sure. But shit, that's a fun idea.
Oh, bugger.
Oh,
classic.
I think a lot of
that's
the
on
things,
us.
Kane and Lynch 2, yeah. It's pacing.
That's just classic Source Engine jump fucker, right? Well, now I can watch it a third time. We liked it so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Yahtzee, for showing me this so many times.
We got some more donos we can get through before we move on to the next level stuff. Venom on Killer, member for 13 months, says spending my membership chat on any live, lots of arts. Thanks for sharing the love, Venom. Appreciate you. 13 months, that's crazy. Appreciate you. And we'll be caught up after this. Snake in the Garden with €5 and says, Mikey, Adam, what do you think you could win if you joined Second Wind for a Battle Masters episodes? And when can you do it, please? So for you guys, if you haven't seen Battle Masters, it's our show where we'll compete with some like random challenge in a game. So for example, the first episode was who can ring the bells in Dark Souls 1 the quickest, and then we who could get the furthest in Mario without killing anything. Those are our challenges. So what would you pick for a challenge, and what do you think you could win?
Oh, okay. So it's something that like Adam and I separately, individually, are like feel really confident and good at, and we challenge all of you to try to get on our level, or just okay.
And it can be, you know, like a speedrun related. It can be like accuracy related. Like, what kind of game do you think that you would stomp all of us at specifically?
Oh, that's a fun question. Adam, you want to go first? Because I feel like I have to think.
The only thing I can think of, because I don't play a ton of games these days, but I probably Escape from Tarkov. Something in Escape from Tarkov. Because I watch that religiously on Twitch, and then I play it every once in a while in the new PvE mode. And yeah, that's probably something in there, whether it's a hardcore run or like actually escaping and like getting through the maps.
Get an extract.
Yeah.
That'll be
I guess I have to think about it. Two that come to mind that I'll throw out there is one would be. Speaking of like Half-Life, I guess any sort of like jumping puzzle type map in a mod like Sven Co-op, I feel like I could manage. Like when I'm playing games with my friends and there's like a jumping part, and if I'm making them play Half-Life with me, but also just generally some certain old game first-person jumping parts, I kind of get it a little bit since I played like so much fucking Half-Life. So I feel like that I could manage that.
Sven would be great too, because you could actually watch them perish repeatedly. Like, I did it. Come join me on the other side.
I don't know what I died from there.
The other one might be like I've been playing a lot of Halo lately. Halo Legendary, I might be good at like a speed run for a Legendary playthrough, but I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I'm more confident in the Half-Life one, and I can't think of anything else.
This section, jumping back to the game. I feel like is a criticism I have of the original Half-Life. Like it's really interesting to have the sort of like gopher gameplay where you're like popping up and hitting these Marines, but it is so hard to pull off in a video game. And we did a couple of revisions on this to try and like nerf it a little bit, but it's still, this is a very difficult, it's a difficulty spike in the game, and I think it turns a few players off just with how punishing it is.
I played all this recently, and I think for me, I love this concept, first of all. Like one of the strengths of Black Mesa, we could talk all day about how beautiful the art is. And I mean, people praise this already, but like the level design, like every combat encounter, feeling different and feeling great in its own, in a unique way. This one is a great example of that. The thing that gets me is just like interacting with ladders sometimes just feels like it's a little... not janky necessarily, but just inconsistent. Like I want to go up, but I'm going down. I press the other button, I still go up. Like I felt like that happened, and that makes gophering a little hard.
It's like every engine derived from the Quake engine has ladder problems.
Yes, that being...
you can press E in our game and in the episodes to pop on and off. There's landing points we define in level design that's super helpful, and I don't think a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, that's what I found.
That being said, I was going to say
that. Just gotten used to pressing E when I see a ladder rather than just walking into it.
Yep. And was it Arcane that they had the meme on their wall of no ladders? Like they don't allow ladders in their game. I think for the Dishonored games, which I completely agree with.
Ladders and doors are
ladders and doors,
the two classic, surprisingly complex things in video games, right?
A lot of players don't assume that they're difficult, right? You just get on the ladder and you go up or down. No.
Oh, if only, if only.
Yeah. I used to muck about with Nukem 3D level editing.
Really?
Yeah, way back in the day. And just doing like a rotating door. It's because, of course, that's not a true 3D engine, so...
yeah.
There's a lot of fuckery that goes into that.
Yeah, how is that? How does that work? Is it like a sprite
Well, there's like no, you have to have like a separate sector for the door, and you put like a what's called a sector effector on the exact spot that the door's going to rotate around.
Yeah. Interesting.
Sector Effector sounds like a good album name, right?
It does.
Sonic album or something. Sector.
I was
Effector.
thinking that as he said it. I was like, damn, that's the sick name.
You would, Jay, wouldn't you?
That's gonna be my new handle. Fuck your mate.
Yeah.
Oh, if I may, there was a scene here I wanted to write too, where this LAV calls out, "Oh, I see Gordon. He's right here. I'm engaging." Nothing too crazy, but I thought that it would be a cool little bit to show you that like the Marines are on top of you. Like they're aware of you. They're calling you out. They are dedicating assets to you, and yeah, they're communicating. I don't know if he was going to be like cocky about it necessarily. He should have been cocky though, because that's like what, a 30mm cannon. Gordon should be dead right now. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I don't care how fucking reactive your armor is.
Yeah. Get hit by the chain gun usually takes you out.
Yeah. If it can kill a plane, it can kill you, sir. I could kill a plane, probably, right?
Yeah.
They shoot 30mm cannons at jets, right?
Yep.
Not usually, but.
There was a conversation in Metal Gear Solid 4, I think, where Articon's talking to Snake, and they're bringing up that bit in Metal Gear Solid 1 where you fight a tank.
Mm-hmm.
And Articon's like, you know, I spoke to like a professional soldier and asked them how a single infantryman would take on a tank.
Yep.
And the answer was simply, don't.
Yeah.
There's a scene, not a scene. There's a YouTube video of Keanu Reeves talking to a SEAL, I think, who's training. You know how it is in Hollywood, right? Like there's a lot of veterans, and he's showing Keanu like, here's how we clear a room, which Keanu needed to know how to do for John Wick. And I think Keanu asks him a question like, "Oh, what if I have to like clear the room by myself?" And the SEAL kind of blinks and goes like, "We never do that. Like you don't really do that." And that's what I think is the exact quote is like, "That's what we call a shit sandwich." Or something like that. Like it's incredibly dangerous, right? Like you don't want to, you can't look two ways at once, and they could be either direction.
Oh my god!
All about teamwork.
Yeah, it's all about teamwork. Which brings us back to Black Mesa, a beautiful example of the value of dedication and teamwork. Dedication for sure. How many years was Black Mesa in development, Adam?
I mean, you could still say it's in development because we're doing tweaks to try and fix up a couple of like launching bugs on certain systems and stuff. I don't know what's the math from 06. Pull out a calculator, denominator.
Years? Yeah,
right?
19 years.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah, I think the 10-year anniversary from the 2015 release is coming up in May.
Sick.
Yeah.
Anything special planned? Can you say? Oh, those guards got up a little bit.
We'll do a sale or something small and maybe put our patch live.
They're like, oh, I thought it was someone else.
Oh, this is a cool scene too. If you look,
yeah,
up
we
sky
built on this quite a bit. I think the somebody spawns in the minefield and gets blown up, which doesn't happen in the original Half-Life, and that surprised me. It's like a really good teaching moment to show. Oh, there's mines out here. Here's what they do.
There's I think it's a guard crawling. Go ahead, yeah.
This is another scene where if you played in the original, you seem to remember it being bigger than it actually is.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe we don't spawn. I could have swore we spawned somebody over by that armor over there.
You'll see. There's a. Oh wait, you mean in this part, not later?
Yeah, I know the later
Sorry,
part, which is brilliant. It will not be denied this tiny bit of armor.
These minefields humbled me a bit because I thought like I recently beat through all of Black Mesa on hard, and I thought like I was a cocky gamer, like, oh, I know Half-Life, I could do this. I kept getting blown up by mines. Like it happened not every single time, but more than I would have expected.
Yeah, I think that's just a common theme of mines. They're kind of designed to surprise you. So I think that means they're
That's
working
true.
as intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trip mines you can stand on. I see a lot of people bounce onto them to hop over.
Classic speedrunning.
I like that you kept that.
Yeah.
We got
you can skip all of
tab.
power up.
Oh,
no shit.
what, by bouncing off the mines?
In the original, at least, if you like, you can use trip mines to just jump over the barrier. You're supposed to use a train to plow through.
Sweet. From Tab, $5, and says, I'm curious, how many of the staff have military experience?
I don't think anybody does. Our current business manager, Dane, is former Air Force, but he wasn't on in the Mesa days.
Overkill.
Did you take the sniper out with a rocket? Nice.
Yes.
I can't think of anybody that was in the military. We're all just a bunch of try-hard nerds.
Yeah, I mean, I have no military experience. Because of the games I worked on, and I have close friends and stuff. I just had people, and because of my personality, I just did the outreach. I'm like, hey, I'm writing Marines, specifically Marines. How do I do it? How should they sound? And went from there. But that's everybody, right? Like, there's also as far as I know, scientists on the team. But when you play and you listen to the scientists talk and you read the whiteboards, you get the impression, because we're just nerds and we cared about delivering things in a believable way.
Well, game design might be closer to science than you think. I mean,
yeah.
I was looking at the monitors in questionable ethics, and one of them looks suspiciously like 3D modeling software.
I saw you look at that. I saw that. And you looked at Chris. I think it was a picture of Chris Horn. You looked at too, but I can't.
Yes,
remember.
I was going to ask who that was, but you were all like deep in conversation at the time.
Yeah, sorry, we're nerding out too much about game design. Mikey's prodding me in the chat to mention that on the side I'm a volunteer firefighter as well, and like,
cool.
You would not believe the overlap between like game design and firefighting, especially in like personnel management and stuff. But like, there are certain things that I'm just like, oh, I know how this should feel, because like, you know, a ladder, for example, I've climbed a ladder before, and like, it's really a testament to like going out and doing things. It doesn't have to be like firefighting, but any outside experience or even like reading books and watching movies will like really help you develop stuff like games in art form.
Yeah, it expands into art, right? Like any kind of experience elevates your art through that experience.
Yeah, I'd imagine firefighting chops would give you an insight into level design as well.
Oh man, that's a great point. Yeah, like just I take pictures all the time. If it's a BS fire alarm, of like, how is this closet oriented? Like, how are we environmentally storytelling? Like the wet floor sign. I see like codes violations of like there's a gas can in this like coat retail store. Like, why? Why is there a gas can here?
Yeah. Someone really needs to talk about all these explosive barrels you've got lying around the place.
Totally,
it's all up to code.
Yeah. Good.
With the level design of Black Mesa and Half-Life, I love how it's kind of, in a way, very immersive simmy in the sense of all progression factors seem very natural. Like being able to get on top of that roof isn't a series of just like boxes that are haphazardly stacked there. It's the pole that has fallen down. There's narrative and there's storytelling happening throughout the level design. And it just flows so beautifully. I'm always blown away when I see it.
Ooh, jumping on stairs. A heart attack moment.
Yep. A few more to come, I'm sure. But yeah, that in environmental storytelling is so clutch. And I will say too, the Half-Life series, a hidden quote unquote thing that they do is just not skipping in the timeline. Like outside of apprehension when you get knocked out. Like I don't know why more games don't do that in single player settings, so that you have the timeline as the player, not jumping around. It's like my only criticism of Titanfall 2 is that the timeline jumps and there's like a load screen, and then you go to the next level. Everything else is flawless in that game. And we had our first detonation.
Yeah, I think it works pretty well in Half-Life 1. I think it makes the narrative take a bit of a hit in some of Half-Life 2, especially because I was playing through episode 2 recently, where you like show up at a rebel headquarters and you've just like fought your way through enemy territory, and they're like, okay, I guess you'll want to keep moving.
Yeah.
I expect you don't want to stop and have a meal or a sleep or anything like that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a few of the valid criticism of episode 2, of like there's a couple of spots where it's like, all right, time to talk to the NPCs, and it's like, oh, I want to keep going.
I think Half-Life 2, this might be a little not contentious but controversial, I don't know. I feel like Half-Life 2 might have done well with like a little more exposition as to what was going on in the world.
Damn it.
Just a little bit, like the 7-hour war, what happened to Earth. I really like the minimalism, and you certainly feel like Gordon would, which is like, oh my God, where am I? Like that's all great.
Yeah, exactly. And I have some context for why everything is blowing up.
Yeah, like what? Who's that? Why aren't the Vortigods shooting me? Like or zapping me? It would have been nice, I think, to have like a little bit more, not too much. You could still keep it characteristically Half-Life and the minimalism and all that, and tell the story environmentally. But there could have been a little more.
I think it was only in Half-Life 2 that they really lampshaded the fact that Gordon Freeman never speaks. In the first game, it was more ambiguous. I wrote an essay about silent protagonists, and I pointed out that there's a bit in Blue Shift where you meet a character, you meet Dr. Rosenberg in the train, and he asks you a question, and there's a pause, and then he reacts like you answered.
Really? I don't remember that at all.
Oh, I forgot that.
So that created a sort of ambiguity over whether the characters are supposed to be literal mutes, or if their like speech is just redacted for like immersion stroke storytelling purposes.
Yeah, or if like your thoughts, like you would understand the answer based on your actions, right? So you thinking the answer is being interpreted as an answer in a way, I guess.
But then like when they start leaning into silent protagonists.
Oh, careful.
Half-Life 2, yes, thank you.
What?
Sorry. And in other games like the original Dead Space, it really feels like these characters should be talking if they have the ability to.
Yeah. Yep. Here as well, if you put the hive hand on in front of the guard below, he has custom lines for that.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think I might have buggered myself out.
Oh no. Maybe. Can you crouch under that beam? Probably not.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go. That's that tiny Gordon capsule.
Going back to exposition stuff, I watched a video by Thomas Flight on YouTube, and sort of in defense of exposition and like comparing good to bad exposition, and it kind of changed my head because I think exposition is a bit of a dirty word, and it really shouldn't be. It's a tool. Like we should be leveraging these things to make sure the story comes across as best it can.
Yeah, it's
100%
true.
Agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so
damn it! I was trying not.
The other day, the streamer that was trying to do it was bugged. So maybe this is for the best.
This is an iconic moment. How the hell do I get my hand into this alien? I love this. Is like Gordon has such minimal expressiveness, obviously, like we're just saying. So when he expresses himself in a little way like that, it feels so strong.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's really affecting him.
And when like after he's finished forcing his hands in, that hive hand just like frozen with its mouth open for a bit, in a sort of
a little bit of cartooniness in there.
I don't know why, but the word ahegao sprang to mind.
Oh, absolutely! It's extremely sexual. Yeah, there's no doubt in that.
This guy looks like someone.
I don't know if he had
why.
To me, he looks like. I think that's the same head as the one with the mustache, who looks a lot like Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To me, at least. To me, I don't know.
Maybe Charles Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
We're coming up on 11:30.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about like skipping ahead to Zen at some point. Do we want to do that? We've got like half an hour left before.
You could skip to, I believe it's map H, that the scene Mikey did with the IFAC. We could go through that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very short map. And then we can hop over to Zen. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick, and then
no worries.
it's H. I'll be right back.
Yeah, if that works for you guys, I'd love to have a chance, as much as people are interested to see it, talk about some of the scenes I wrote.
100%.
So which scene's that?
Let me... Adam will know the console command, but I'll try to look it up real quick. I can't remember. And I don't know the map. He said map H. Hold on.
Don't point that thing at me.
How dare you?
Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna put it in the chat. And it should be... Can't really... It's been a little while since I've done the source commands, but you can try this one in the console. Change level. Or no, it might be change map. Been a while.
Just a sec.
Let's see if that works.
Change level BM C2A58 and
It's loading something.
Oh, yep.
All right. Cool. So yeah, this is service tension. Everything's gone to shit. The military is like beginning its pullout, or at least they're trying to figure out what the hell they're supposed to do to set the stage.
Okay.
And back.
Welcome back.
I think this is the level right map. Right, Adam. I did the map with H. I think it was.
Hold on.
I'm kind of still trying to figure out what point in the game this is.
Yeah. Yes, I believe this is right. Because we just got a little hint of the Garg beyond that fire there. As the map starts, he's kind of like slowly pacing away. And then forward, we're going to run into HECU Kazovac
Yeah.
area.
It's like an aid station or something.
Yep.
Yep, thank you, chat. I went the wrong way there. Starting the level got a bit disoriented.
I mean, I would
contact.
teleport in and just be like, where am I?
Oh, I get thrown through the wall here. Oh, maybe we're in the wrong map. Hold on. Googling frantically.
Thank you guys for indulging me. It is and taking the time to check out this scene.
No, I was looking forward to this.
people are telling you to do. Oh, here we go.
Oh, this is neat too.
Cool.
Oh.
Wow,
So
I'm
sick.
watching this, and I remember Ben Truman directing me, voicing that scene. I remember him emphasizing like back the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like, really hit that line. Like he didn't say exactly like that, but I remember the emphasis we needed for that, and this whole scene.
That might be my favorite delivery of yours because it
Oh, really?
works really well with the. I mean, there's a ton of great ones, but I did the char marks for the beam, and we did it so ghetto. Like we just have the particles covering up as the stamps for the actual char marks come in giant squares, and it's just a masked material. Like there's no transparency on it. It's either on or it's off, so it looks very pixely on the ground. But it like is the only way we could solve this particular problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have the map, Adam? Because I feel like it's after this.
Yeah, I think it's right after this. The next one is I. Let me jump into I on my own.
Yeah, and I think I is too far. So keep going, Yahtzee. I think you're almost there. We'll see. We'll see very soon.
Okay.
Chat is saying IFAK is the next map.
Yeah, IFAC is next map. Okay. So let's. Why don't you save here to be safe, and then I'll give you the command for the next map.
Whee!
Bye.
Okay.
I was looking through the dev forums for that particular section too, because initially it was just wide open, and you walked into this crazy battle scene, and like nobody saw the battle; they joined in the battle.
Right.
So we added stairs that felt really wrong, and then we ended up adding a jump pad.
Here you go.
Actually, it might have been a different scene that I'm thinking of there, but
Change levels. BM_C2A5I like India. So C, yeah, you got it.
Pulling out the phonetic alphabet.
Doodly-doodly-doo.
Yeah. I try not to do that in real life because it sounds so militaristic.
Yeah.
But this is a great scene too. Kevin Sisk doing the emergency test message.
Oh yeah.
Good world builder. An important world builder.
All over
Speaking of exposition, what's happening to the rest of the world? There you go. Boom.
Yep.
I don't think Half-Life 1 explains there's a state of emergency in New Mexico.
Thanks, chat. We got there. This is the right map.
Yeah, so if you go to your immediate left right here, and I'll be quiet to that radio.
Ah, you bastard. God damn it. How many head crabs did you put around here?
A lot. I think there's more down the other side. Yeah, big fan of that. IFAC is individual first aid kit, right, Mikey?
Yeah. So, to talk about the writing process, like I had to make sure that the radio terminology was correct. Echo 3 Juliet is a specific thing for, well, he's an E3, like he's enlisted 3, rank 3 in the military, in a Marine specifically, J for Juliet. His last name begins with a J. Talking to a corpsman who's a higher rank and is just instructing him remotely because he has to. I talked to my mom, who was an ICU nurse, and said, "How do you treat a gunshot wound or a wound?" And she's like, I said, "Where do you tie the tourniquet?" And she's like, "Hands length above the wound," which I think was, at least at the time, the most up-to-date teaching and training. There's a lot that goes into a tiny little scene in the background radio that you could easily just completely miss. And that's like the thing that I think it's important they understand about any kind of writing, is like you might put 200% of your effort and stuff into a scene. People might not even notice it, and that's just something that you accept. This scene means a lot to me in particular because it was one of the ones that resonated with people the most. And like many writers, many creatives, like you didn't kind of expect that. Like I was very happy with it, but when I was looking on YouTube last year, I found 2 animations with like hundreds of thousands of views. LZ Sparrow by Joe Akans on YouTube and Echo 3 Juliet by Hellhounds 4 that are source filmmaker things just built out of that scene or inspired by that scene. And that's, of course, like a great moment as a writer, right? To see something that you wrote down inspires somebody else.
Yeah, and we had the luxury of going through and really putting depth into our game of like, here's all these little hidden things that the more you look, the more you find, and that really establishes the world. So maybe your first playthrough, you don't notice the Echo Juliet scene, but on your second you do, and you're like, oh, this is like, brings a whole new level to the game. See, this is something we did poorly. We never introduced this mechanic, but we test you on it under pressure. So we should have found a way to have this interactive dialogue somewhere else in the game in a very calm setting, and then we introduce it again so that you can take out the guy. This is like a game design thing we didn't do so well.
You got to do the fuel truck, by the way. I think in Half-Life 1.
Yeah.
I was still thinking Half-Life 1 you do the wall, right?
I was still thinking back to how I did it in Half-Life 1, yeah.
Yeah. I literally just played it, and I don't remember which spot. If I remember falling off the radio tower, so maybe you do still shoot the radio tower. And I think the fuel truck was something we added in the definitive edition because players weren't directed enough to knock that over onto that.
Yeah.
I don't have too much of an issue with this level. Do we want to go to Zen, by the way? That was all I wanted to...
Yeah, we can skip ahead to Zen.
This is pretty much,
cool, whatever.
So if you're not familiar with the game, a whole bunch of more soldiers died, and then we got to some labs, and then we teleported to an alien world.
Something while we load in,
succinct.
Something Ben Truman introduced to me was the tide flipping, the rest of the team as well, the tide flipping during surface tension. I never picked up that the HECU were getting their asses kicked in surface tension, and like it sort of justifies how the aliens win. And also the concept of being pinched as Gordon Freeman, where you have these terrifying aliens behind you and you have these super kitted out military dudes in front of you and you're in the middle. And I think that's a very unique Half-Life gameplay aspect. Normally it's just like all bad guys are in front of you. There's nothing creeping up behind you. I think more games could leverage systems like that to make them even better.
I used to find it quite relaxing when the aliens and the Marines were fighting each other. I just hang back, place bets. Yeah.
It's also really nice to see enemy factions have motives that aren't just look for the player and shoot the player, right?
Yep.
You feel like there's more going on.
We had a lot of discussions of like who should the AI target in the scenario. Like if there's combat going on between the HECU and the aliens, and Gordon walks in the middle. Like, what do we do? And I think we always have them prioritize the aliens because, like, as a human, that's probably what you're gonna do.
There's an interesting quote.
Maybe he'll help us. I don't want to shoot him yet.
I remember noticing when I've played the original Half-Life that if there's a bull squid and a head crab in the same room, the bull squid always fights the head crab first.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you play through Zen, you kind of get this impression like, wait, are the head crab like vermin? Yeah. Like they're the Gonarch's offspring. Maybe they're just like an unwelcome piece of the ecosystem. Was at least my interpretation.
I suppose there's a big question hanging over what the hell does a head crab do when it doesn't have heads? Like, when it doesn't have humans with heads all around the place. Do they latch onto Do they latch onto hound eyes? What are they up to?
My interpretation only goes as far as like the Gonarch lays eggs, right? And they turn into they're baby head crabs and they grow into full-sized head crabs. And they're just like infesting, they're like, I don't know, like hogs or something in certain parts of the North America where there's just way too many of them and they're violent and they're killing off other species. That's kind of my interpretation, but I never thought too much about it. And I certainly don't know how they live without having heads to eat.
Yeah. The mechanics, like Yahtzee was saying, is let's get that mod. I want to see these other mutations of how they're latching onto things and
a hound eye would be awesome. Yeah.
So this area here is to teach the player that there's no fall damage. So that little rope thing that you just saw behind you, you fall and you don't get hurt. I talk about it in the no clip doc we did. So like, sorry to repeat myself, but this whole area is designed to be that test like we were talking about in surface tension. This is the introduction.
Yeah.
It's super safe. Nothing can go wrong other than the barnacles. Then we get a little bit more spicy with jumping over into the healing pool. It teaches the healing pool.
Yep.
Then we have an even longer jump, but it's directed with the bridges. So you can see there's this human architecture as like point A, point B. And then we actually test the player with the long jump after you move the floating island, which you'll see here in a second. So like this, I'm really proud of us and how we tried to incorporate the good game design elements to teach the player how to do things.
Yeah.
I really love the pulling of the rock, which I guess we'll see here in a second. It felt so much like you were characterizing the expedition team, right? You were showing, here are the things that they're doing in this alien world. Here's the mark that you're leaving. Hell, right here, like here's a painted ramp that shows like this is the direction you're supposed to go. There's the team indicating where to jump. I assume. Yeah. So it's very deliberate. It's awesome.
So it was quite a daunting task, I suppose, having to adapt Zen to Black Mesa, because of course Zen was a point of contention in the original Half-Life for a lot of people. A lot of people didn't like it. It was like a huge tonal shift, and suddenly it was all about platforming, which 90s first-person shooters weren't great at the best of times.
Yeah.
So was there any like general driving philosophy you took when it came to adapting Zen?
Yeah, so we had a lot of chicken and egg problems with, we didn't have levels, so we couldn't make art. We didn't have art, so we couldn't make levels. And like, what do? We talked briefly about just sort of remastering the originals and like making them more streamlined, but we didn't feel like that was enough. And we wanted this kind of be like our resume as game designers.
Yeah, you kind of did the opposite of streamlining in the end.
Yes, we did. With mixed positive and negative results, like we were talking about earlier. But with this one, Chris Horn really dove into the original levels, the beta levels that didn't get released, that got cut by the Valve team, and then developed this winding sort of narrative so that we had this framework to work off of. And then obviously once you get into the game, things are going to change. But yeah, those original plans are kind of what guided us to introducing these new mechanics, telling the story of Zen, telling the story of what the scientists were doing here. And even things like the giant tower in the distance we stole from Half-Life 2 with the Citadel. Like, that's your destination. We're going to keep referencing this and let the player get closer and closer and closer to this giant tower in the distance to show their progression through the world. So it was just like a daunting, multi-year, excruciating process to get as much as we could out of these levels.
How many years, Adam?
Well, I'm ashamed to admit, in 2015, I don't think we had a single level for Zen when we first released on Steam, and we might have had some blockouts, and Chris definitely had plans, but like there were so many things that we had to figure out and see what we wanted to do with that it just took us forever. And then leading up to the 2020 release, we wanted to drop the entire game as this big reveal, because that's kind of how we did things in the past. Like, boom, it's ready, go play it. And thank God we didn't, because we did a quick engine test to make sure we weren't going to light computers on fire, which we did. And we got so much good feedback from that engine test that we did another level, and then we did another chapter, and like it kind of became our development process of releasing betas, getting a ton of feedback, fixing that, and then releasing the follow-up level after that. And I think this is something that Valve does internally, but we at Crowbar Collective kind of want to adopt that externally. Like, we want to have the community involved with things we do, just because it's so helpful. Like, there's things in there that we never would have caught playtesting ourselves, that the community finds and gives us feedback on.
Valve playtest the shit out of things.
Yeah.
I was enlisted to do some testing while I was visiting them back in 2008.
That's awesome.
They had me watch a prototype version of Meet the Medic, the Team Fortress 2 short.
Mm-hmm.
And it was completely different to the one that eventually came out. And I answered a few questions for them, and they was like, okay, well, you didn't get it at all. You completely didn't understand it, so now we have to talk about how we're going to fix it. And I got to sit in on the whole meeting where they discussed what they were going to do next.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yahtzee said this sucked. We got to redo it.
Your opinion adds some clout, I guess.
Well, I invited me there.
Or, it followed a bunch of other people who felt the same way. You never know those things.
This area went through massive overhauls. Originally, there was a bridge that was knocked out. And over time, just iteration, we ended up with this like sort of skipping pattern. Yeah. In the previous level too, we tried to pull in the successful world building from Earthbound, where there's like little ancillary islands that you can jump to, and there's like a Hound Ion or some resources. And like, even if we don't have the Black Mesa research facility, we can still put in these little pockets of interest. Oh, you barely made it on that.
Yeah.
You were talking about 2015, Adam, and I remember, from what I remember, I guess, when I was there, I just remember like multiple of Chris's sketches, which would have been around 2015, 2016, of like, well, here's what it's, how I'm envisioning it looking. And I remember that the whole topic of Zen was very, not enigmatic, but just like kind of high level, strategic, even vague, of like what we're going to do. Oh, well, it's going to be big. Like, that was the whole idea. To finally play it was like a really wild experience. And actually, this scene where you are now, Yahtzee, was a moment where I was like, oh, fuck. Like, they really expanded, didn't they? Like, this is not in Half-Life 1 at all. Nothing like it.
Not. As I said, there's no headcrab zombies after apprehension.
Right. And then you see this, and you're like, oh, they got the... And it sparks. Oh, it's lovely. It's
Chuck perfect. Saw that scene, and he's like, "How the fuck did he get in there?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good point."
That is a good question.
It's a good question.
I mean, someone just put on an HV suit and then got back inside the charging unit to have a little sleep.
Yeah, go home.
Maybe trying to get rid of the head crab. Maybe they thought that would help.
Yeah,
he jumped in there to hide, And in classic horror movie, and he shut the glass. He was like, "Oh, I'm safe." And then in classic horror movie fashion, there was one, "Oh no!" And then there's a stinger that plays.
Is the head crab in the room with us now?
Yes. It's this tiny, extremely narrow, compact space. He was in a little vent, all right, up at the top.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The rule of cool applies there, where that was way too cool to not do. So who cares how he actually got in there? And credit to Kevin too for doing all the fucked up HEV voices that you hear, super creepy.
Yeah, Kevin did. That's right. Props to Kevin. Thank you, Kevin.
Did the startup voice too? Just pitched his voice up.
We can't see it right now, but the skybox you guys did for this area is absolutely breathtaking. It's
dude.
Yeah. I remember
I have such an appreciation for skyboxes.
It was Mark Foreman.
I remember thinking when you first get into Zen and look out at the vista before you, I remember thinking, well, I guess we know why it took so long.
Awesome, that's great.
And the music plays. Adam, I teared up, man, straight up, just looking out at there and thinking about all the years of work and my brief time there. It was just like this sounds hyperbolic or maybe even cheesy or saccharine, but it was like a bit of a magical, emotional moment to just see all of that and hear that and hear those tunes and just the accumulation of all this work. It's obviously like a super important project to me and to all of us. It's wild. It's so nice that it was so well received.
Yeah, totally. Like labor of love that paid off, and most people know that Joel Nielsen's the composer for the game. His wife does the vocals for the Zen soundtrack, so credit to her too. They're beautiful. And
I was wondering
at the end of Interloper, something I've talked about before as well. If we do a little bit of a fake out where it's this long drawn out Interloper chapter, and then you see this big teleporter at the top of what we call the brain. And people think this has to be it. Like this is going to take me to the big bad. I'm finally done with the level. And you do it, and it teleports you on top of the tower. And you have the giant overview with the really massive red portal in the distance. And I saw a couple of people live get emotional there, and that was like the pinnacle of like a compliment for me. Like it really made my day. Like it made my project, if you will, to be able to see people reacting positively to that.
I want to move people with our art. That's like the pinnacle.
Yeah,
it's so beautiful. You get to experience that. We got
and that's actually a punt we did too, where we were going to have this big dramatic. You were going to get into an elevator or something, and it would like wind you around the tower. And I was like, no, we can't. We don't have time. Let's just teleport them. And I think it was an accidental like lucked out on that, where it's more effective that way than if we did the dramatic reveal.
That's why constraints can be really, really powerful for the development.
Yes.
They can lead you to things that you wouldn't think of otherwise.
Absolutely.
We have
like Indiana Jones shooting that guy.
Yeah, right? Because Harrison Ford was ill. Yeah.
Or something like that, I heard.
Yep.
Anyway, go ahead. Snake in the Garden.
Snake in the Garden's just asked to explain what a skybox is, please, because most people might not know what that is. So a skybox is effectively like an inverse sphere that we place inside the scene to project the sky onto, effectively to mimic the visuals of a sky, and we call them skyboxes. So effectively around the entire scene there'll be, imagine a big sphere, and we're not seeing the outside of it, we're seeing the inside, so we are inside of it. And you project a texture onto that, and it wraps around the environment and gives that illusion. So that's what a skybox is.
Sorry to interrupt. Yahtzee, go over to the fire there, or not the fire, the crystal, and there should be a plug next to it. On the left, you see it on the ground.
Oh,
I got stuck for a while on this last night when I was beating Zen up till 3 a.m. And I forever I was like, where the I'm not looking up a YouTube tutorial. And
this is my game. I'm not cheating.
I'm not a very expressive gamer when I'm by myself, but I saw the plug there and I was like, oh well, that was smart. Like I thought that in my head, like, oh okay, that was smart of me.
I'm glad you said something. I was getting embarrassed.
That's okay. I was lost there for a while.
I played this before. I just completely forgot that part.
It's in a dark area. You know, it's hard to see.
Yes, I remembered you had to put the crystal on the thing. I remembered you had to plug it into something. But in my mind, I was looking for like a loose, plug. just lying around.
Yeah. It's also tough streaming and like being in conversation and reading chat and like trying to keep up with all the things.
I always say, like, 100%. Just assume I'm like 40% better at games than you.
40%.
Yeah,
that's a good number, actually. I think that works.
I was describing the Skybox thing, so your brain was half going to sleep. So it is what it is.
It was a good explanation of a Skybox.
Yes.
And the Source Engine ones are so tricksy, like we were talking about earlier, where they're like wedged off into the corner and smaller. They're 1/6 scale or something like that. And it's actually, this level is enveloped in a box, a literal box of blue skybrush. Yeah. And then the engine renders onto that and it's parallaxing, and like it's a crazy piece of tech.
One fun
and it's going away. You don't have to do it
an art
anymore.
form.
If you like messing with games, if you can find the skybox, just like pop a character in the skybox and then go back to the rest of the level. And there's just like a giant Team Fortress demo man just marching across the landscape.
The best thing to do for skyboxes is get like the face model, so like a UV unwrapped face on a skybox is one of the craziest things to look at.
That's some Cruelty Squad shit, dude.
Yeah,
that happened with the Grand Theft Auto re-release when they re-released like San Andreas. Like for some reason, when you got too close to certain walls, it would turn into the wraparound of someone's face.
Really?
Because the textures were all messed up.
Yeah, it's calling the wrong texture.
For the audience, so with texturing, you make a 3D model, right? And then you want to texture it. And how you do that is you create the UVs for it. So UV mapping is effectively taking your model, and which is a complex 3D object, and flattening it out so you can effectively paint onto it like a painting. So for people's faces that are, as a human face would be, you effectively have to take it and then flatten it out. So it just looks like this stretched out, horrible amalgamation of a face. So you can paint onto the 3D asset. So yeah, it can look real horrific. It's very cool.
If you've done, what's the term for creating clothes, where you have to cut out the pattern and then like that. Yeah. That's kind of what it's like. It's kind of like pelting too. If anybody's ever seen like a stretcher for an animal hide or something, you gotta like really flatten these things out so that you can paint on them. And all this stuff is evolving. Like the skyboxes we were talking about, now you can just make the skybox even if you don't interact with it. Games have the resources to actually have the geometry out there, and you still have to UV and pelt these assets on a base level, but like we paint in 3D now. Like it does a full PBR rendering for more realistic materials and stuff. It's the tech these days is fantastic.
Oh, we've come a long way.
Yeah. Yep. This area was all completely different when we first built it off of Chris's plan, and then Kim went in and did a bunch of the early versions of this. And it was originally it was this giant maze with poisonous puffballs in it. We were trying to mimic the poison head crabs from Half-Life 2, and it just did not work. So like all this is pretty much ad hoc. What can we do with these spaces to make them more fun to play and make it this like Zenian jungle to really show the nature of how Zen exists without Nihilanth or human interference.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I remember there even being any plant life in the original Zen.
No, and there's the floating island that everybody hates because you fall off and hurt yourself. And then I think you go right to Gonark. It's like a 2-minute thing.
Like the floating island, there's that bit where you have to like release 3 little moth things to go inside a thing.
Yep.
Which is
so weird.
Bewildering, frankly.
Zen was more surrealist, I feel like, which is fine. You get the surrealism, I think, when you look out from the jungle into space and you're like, oh my god, like I think I'm just a rock. Everything's purple and blue.
Yeah, it was a constant push-pull, because I know Ben wanted to really go into the surrealist level of things, which could have opened up a lot of gameplay because you're not like hemmed in by reality. But we ended up going the route of much more grounded to what Earth is like, and being able to leverage that for readability, because people kind of know what these things are. They know what a cave is, and they know what these pustules are and whatnot.
It would be interesting to see that. That's part of what I was thinking when I was playing through. Was like, oh, it seems like a little bit of the surrealism that I remember from Half-Life 1 was lost. It would be interesting to see this team's talent production in that direction. At the same time, I totally get why you went with this direction, because it allowed so many opportunities for so much of the stuff that you're saying, including gameplay of like having the ammo pickups over here and like a dead HEV guy caught in a web and grabbing their armor and stuff. So I totally get that.
Yeah, my brain is very literal, so going into the abstract round would have been very difficult for me, or the abstract realm rather. But it was a team collaboration. We could have done it. I mean, we had smart people, but I am very happy with what we did end up doing, and how we introduced these mechanics and keep building on these things throughout the levels.
Yeah.
We have a donation from Susiguru2000, which is €5, and it says, "How daunting was it making Zen, since you had almost nothing to go on and had to invent it from scratch, in contrast to the research facility?"
Yeah, and just like we were talking, like we know what a maintenance closet looks like. Kind of like structural elements, and everybody has a certain intuition for building staircases and whatnot. But it was all up to us, and we had a lot of the groundwork with basic jumping, gravity, shooting mechanics that we were pulling over from our experience, but everything else was up to us. So it was kind of like making a new game, and that's what we wanted to do. But oh boy, was it a challenge to think up these things and play test them, realize they were not working, and then finding other ways to make the game fun and engaging.
Yeah, 100%.
Hey, speaking of which, props to the gameplay, I guess you want to call it a gameplay decision. I like how you change the long jump. I like how you develop that mechanic. Doing crouch and then jumping and only being able to go forward. I mean, it's fine, but it feels dated, right? Doing a double tap is way more intuitive, and being able to go in any direction, and then building fights like the Big Mama fight, the Monarch fight, so much more interesting because you're able to do that.
I know. Christ, I remember originally playing the first Half-Life, not even realizing I was supposed to be long jumping at the first bit of Zen. I was just trying to try to survive very long falls.
Yeah.
Because, of course, in the original, you do the hazard course, and it would teach you the long jump at the very end, and that wouldn't actually show up in the actual game.
For hours.
For hours and hours.
12 hours later.
Yep, totally.
They built their hazard course very quickly, too. Like, it was, it almost didn't happen. So that whole project, imagine what Half-Life could have been if it had more time, like many games, like many projects.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm glad the long jump reads well to people. I was actually, I believe, wrong about it. I wanted to, Doom 2016 or Team Fortress style double jump that kind of lifted you up. And we just thought it was more in line with the original to have it be like you're shot out of a cannon, push forward, and then it led us into the Gonarch being much more of a combat dance where you can use these sideways things. Like I don't think it was until later on in the chapter we coded in the ability to long jump backwards and to the side and stuff, and it really helped that fight.
Feels more purposeful on the player's part rather than flailing.
Yeah, and we're using mechanics that we've already built. So the targeting thing in ST, we use it once and it never comes back. If we put something into a game and spend the time to teach the player, we need to maximize the usage out of that in any way we can.
Yeah. There's one last super chat. Let's make this the last one because our 2 hours are up in a bit.
Yeah. Piefish gives £5. Thank you so much. And says, knowing what you know now, do you think you'd still have used the Source engine to make Black Mesa, or do you think you'd have used a different engine?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Hello again, Piefish. We would have. Our skill set was purpose built for the Source engine. That was the engine we learned on as kids in college, and that's what we had. It actually makes me sad of the knowledge that we had about the Source engine that we're slowly forgetting over time, the entropy of our knowledge base. But yeah, we definitely would use the Source engine. It had all the, I was just talking about, it had the things built in, the shooting, the moving. We didn't have to worry about those things as game designers. We could focus on the levels and putting in all the details we were gushing about earlier. So we definitely would use that, and it was a huge growing pain going onto Rogue Point to learn the Unreal Engine and realize we knew nothing about modern game engines, and like kind of had to go back to square one of like, we know what our goal is, we know what we want to do, how do we do it in this engine without breaking the world?
Yeah,
that was us at New World, dude, going from Source with Insurgency to Unreal. It was a doozy.
Yeah, and Insurgency Sandstorm is highly regarded when we talk about our game with people. People are like, oh, like Sandstorm? Like, yeah, exactly. Oh. Totally stealing ideas from that.
It's the opposite for me. I'm like, I worked on Sandstorm to certain people, most people probably, and they're like, oh, cool. But I say I work on Black Mesa, and they're like, oh, shit. Because
I know we'll talk about that.
It's very recognizable. Yeah.
We've got one more cheeky dono. Okay. SVS Guru 2000 with €5 says, did you debate using the high definition pack that came with Blue Shift?
Yeah, we originally were going to have both and have it be in the options menu. We ran into a lot of trouble with the number of weapons that we had. We added in like multiplayer skins and stuff, and actually the engine draws all of the weapons at once and then strips away what it's not needed so that you have just your selected weapon. Okay. So we ran out of resources on that end, so we couldn't do it.
Wait, so you're saying you would have done like an M9 pistol, like in the HD pack? Yeah. You could swap out. That's a ton of work, dude. Holy shit. You're like,
I think we modeled the M4. I think it was in the game at one point. But yeah, we just made the creative decision, and for time, just to be like, hey, let's not worry about these. They can be mods later, and they're mods. So worked out great.
I'm an SD boy myself. You made the right call there.
Yeah, me too. But I do like the other ones as well.
All right. Well, I think we can call that a stream. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us, Adam and Mikey. Why don't you close off by plugging your new project a little bit?
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, we're developing a 4-player co-op tactical shooter, and we wanted to make it approachable and intuitive. Well, one of my favorite games all time is Rainbow Six 3 Raven Shield, and a bunch of us like SWAT 4 as well. And back in the day when we started the project, we're like, boy, wouldn't this be a really good game with modern controls? Not that they're not good games now. Like I said, they're some of my favorites, but that was sort of like the initial seed. So if you're into a co-op tactical shooter, check out our game on Steam. It's called Rogue Point, and we greatly appreciate it.
All right. We should have a link to that in the description for this video, so
100%.
Check that out. Thanks again for joining us. I was Yahtzee Crowshaw. I was joined by Jay as well, who was wrangling the chats. Thanks for watching if you watched the whole way. If you just joined us, sorry, we're going now. Maybe watch the VOD.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. This has been a ton of fun. My cheeks hurt from laughing.
Thank you.
Oh, how nice. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Don't forget, we've got content every week here at Second Wind. Don't forget to check out Fully Ramblomatic this week, which was on the subject of anomaly hunt games. And I had a semi-ram this week as well on the subject of VR. Jay, do you want to plug something?
Yeah, Design Delve came out today on why Marvel Rivals is beating Overwatch because it's broken. People seem to be enjoying that episode, so check that out. And for the final time before Sunday, I'm going to be doing on my personal Twitch the Ludothon stream to help raise some funds to get Ludo over here because she's still in England, but she's going to be getting on a plane on Tuesday to come here. So if you want to join on my personal Twitch to help raise some funds to help get Ludo here, I will see you there. Thank you.
Let me plug real quick, Yahtzee. Sorry. Come watch DevHeads. DevHeads is the show that Jay, Tina, our other co-host, and I host. We do developer interviews. That's actually how we first started with Adam. You can go check out the show where we interviewed / discussed the topic of signing with publishers with Adam. It's great. We have devs on as guests every other week, and we have a couple really interesting ones coming up that I won't reveal yet. But go watch DevHeads. It's 3 Second Wind.
Hell yeah, DevHeads.
I guess we'll call it there then. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you all on Monday for the Windbreakers podcast. Until then, bye-bye for now.
See ya.